was like, well, I mean, it's that same feeling. I'm just like the spirit who comes in at night and spends a little time. Is that your experience too?
It was.
Yeah. So it's tough because like you want to succeed, but it's
Hmm.
like, the kid's not going to remember the cool toy you got him when he's 30. He's gonna remember that time.
Yep, very much so.
So I mean, what was the most difficult part of the transition for you after 22 years in the core, that rigid structure? Especially, I know what you guys had doing recruiting, and some of it was like ridiculously crazy work.
Yes.
Um, so I mean, how is it going from there to bam, Lockheed, and then into the next step?
It was a wild ride. And what I mean by that is because one, all of a sudden I was introduced back to the family, and it was trying to reintegrate myself there, along with trying to find out who I really was without the Marine Corps, which, I mean, it's hard in itself. 22 years, did recruiting, drill instructor, all that stuff, and now none of it made sense. None of it mattered. Nobody cared about that. So I'd say the hardest part was really figuring out how to transition my experience and put it into words to the resumes and the people I was actually applying roles to. It
Mhm.
was just learning how to bridge the understanding of what I'd done to civilians.
Yeah, was there? I mean, ask you a success story. Was there a moment when you realized you were on the right path? You're like, yes, I'm doing it the right way.
I'd say SkillBridge. And the reason being is because, again, I kind of did talent acquisition. I didn't really know if I wanted to go back to that because, I mean, I did it for almost 8 years in the Marine Corps, and recruiting in the Marine Corps was nowhere near what it is in the civilian sector. It was probably 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, and trying to convince kids and parents to send their kids to the military, which everybody thought the Marine Corps was like, definitely not that one. Air Force,
Yeah.
everybody else, but Marine Corps, you can kick rocks.
Yeah, yeah. I got lots of
So,
those guys. Thank you.
yep. So it was just, it was, I'd say Lockheed was really like what made me realize I wanted to do recruiting because it wasn't recruiting for the Marine Corps. It was drastically different. I was actually seeing how I help people because in the Marine Corps, I had to wait till I came back from boot camp, and three-fourths time they didn't care. It was like, oh, cool, appreciate it. But every now and then you get the kid come back like, I really appreciate it. You made a difference. Or the kids that come back after 4 years, be like, hey, like if I didn't do this, I don't know what I would have done. Like you had those moments every now and then, yeah, right. But with Lockheed, you really saw how much of a difference recruiting made, and that I think made me transition to I wanted to do recruiting after the Marine Corps because I actually saw the difference in helping people. It was more of a puzzle, vice just a mission, and being able to kind of find that right person, find the right role, and put those together. It just it made me feel a whole lot better about what I was doing.
Yeah, you know what? One of my favorite things to put in, like when I was, work, because I was a defense contractor too at Pratt and Whitney under Raytheon. So probably our roles were probably very much like
Mm-hmm.
this. But one of my favorites is bringing on a hiring manager, and then the first time they have to hire somebody, they go to you. It's like, hey, Smitty, you treated, and you get that positive, like, yeah, I made a difference, and you help line that person up, and that's going to help the next person because they get it.
Yep.
'Cause you built that relationship. Because I mean, the job's all about relationships. But I mean. So on the other side of that coin, so how about failures that you went, crap, but you learn from it.
First, doing resumes and trying to understand that how important it was to tailor each resume to the role you're applying for. Because I mean, it was probably 3 to 500 easy, and it got tiring. And as far as like rejections of not getting a call back or getting a call back and then nothing after the interview, like, it was very demoralizing, especially after 22 years. You always hear like, oh, your skills are like you're gonna have people knocking on the door, and you're just like, where's the door? It's
Yeah.
still up. So I'd say that was probably the hardest failure of just you don't really have people knocking on the door. It's more of the relationships you built in the Marine Corps, in the service, or in that transition time. All of a sudden, you start getting calls from those people that you actually, like you said, built those relationships with.
Mhm. Yeah, it's we literally ended our last conversation with it's not always what you know. It's who. And you don't have to be best buddies with them for 20 years to have it make a difference. That's
Nope.
the cool thing. It's just got to make that right impression, then service that relationship in some fashion. So I
Hmm.
mean, how did you decide? What made you decide to stick with recruiting and not branch out into doing something else? Because you did some other stuff in the core before. You were what, finance before?
Finance and accounting
Yeah.
and drill instructor and all those different things. Funny enough, the job I landed in is recruiting for HR, accounting, and finance. So I had the
Language.
accounting and yeah, and it was again relationships. My old executive officer for recruiting actually knew my boss's. His wife knew my boss's wife. So again, it was just by luck that I had a great relationship with the XO, and he referred me to him. He's like, hey, he did recruiting for the Marine Corps, and he has an accounting degree, an accounting background. So it just it married up better than I could have even imagined. I got an opportunity, and it's just again relationships. Without that referral, I wouldn't have this role.
Yeah, yeah. Or you don't know where you'd be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, thank you. I'll send you a Christmas card, sir. Thank you very much. You
Yep.
want what kind of wine does your life like? I'll send you that too. It's you can't go far enough. So I mean, did you have any like aha moments, or I finally nailed it in translating, the core language into the resume language to the civilian world, or something where you're like, guys,
Yeah.
get this.
I was during Lockheed because again I was doing recruiting for Lockheed, so
Saw
being
it.
able to see what the difference in the hiring manager actually wanting to talk to somebody in their resumes and things like that, it really that's what really showed me like how important tailoring that resume is to the keywords, making sure that you have all the basic qualifications for a role. If you don't have all the basic qualifications, they're not going to call you. And if you don't have at least 50% of the desired skills, they're probably not going to call you either.
Mhm.
So I'd say that's what really led me down the road of how important it is to tailor your resume each and every role. And then honestly, so I use Hiring Our Heroes to help with my resume for the first one. And then I found ChatGPT to be instrumental to sit there and like translating some of those words and experiences into things that actually made sense in the civilian sector.
Yeah, I just did it with a buddy of mine, was looking for work, and this guy's a Green Beret. He's certified bad man. Like his top award is like two down from Medal of Honor. It's above the Silver Star. And he's got all his classes and stuff I put in there. I was like, nah, dude, do this. And I used
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT to do it, where all of a sudden, parachutist school, master badge, this, that, and now they put it in civilian ease. And he's like, oh my God, that's way better. I was like, two commands. That's all it took
Yep.
in Chat GTP. But sometimes you just don't think to look at that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
what opened your eyes to it?
Again, Lockheed, they were using their own proprietary AI that they had. So utilizing that and assisting veterans. So we did a thing every month where we had a teams meeting with veterans that were transitioning, looking to get out, had already gotten out, spouses, things like that, to kind of tailor the resumes, but also bring people in from different roles within Lockheed to talk to them about. And resumes was always the big thing. And being on that recruiting side, it was if you don't have these basic qualifications, I'm not even calling you. So it was just using the AI that they had and helping others translate their resume. Like, hey, I see you got this, try this. And sending them the data that I got from that and how it changed their resume, and all of a sudden they started getting calls back. So it was that moment that I realized, why am I going to sit there and scour through this, define every word, when I can use ChatGPT, like Perplexity, all these different AIs to be like, hey, how well does this match for this job description? And if it comes back with all the keywords, done.
Puzzle solved. So, I
Yep.
mean, what do you think the top skills you took from recruiting in the core to recruiting in the civilian world? What works, what doesn't work?
Follow up and just relationships. Never giving up. Like that follow up until they answer the phone or they tell you to screw off. That I'm going to keep calling. I'm going
Yeah.
to keep sending an email until I hear from you, because the difference here is people want these jobs. People apply to them, and you'd be surprised how many people still don't return calls when you're calling them to sit there like, "Hey, I've got a job for you," and you
Yeah.
applied to it, and
Or no voicemail
crickets.
greeting.
I know. So I'd say follow through and just relationships, because without relationships, Marine Corps recruiting would fail. So that translated for me into civilian sector of doing recruiting, not even recruiting though either. It's just building those relationships again, because if I don't know somebody, I'm sure that somebody else does. I mean, I've helped other buddies get jobs because like, hey, I don't know that person, but hey, this person works there. Let me give them a call. And all of a sudden, like, yeah, I'll help them out. And connect the two of them, and next thing you know, they've got a job interview.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like to flip that coin. So, what are some of the things you've seen the veterans put through where you're like, dude, no?
um, I'd say it's only having the resume via only military terms that nobody understands unless you're applying to a role that is specifically contract based for infantry, things like that, which I mean, those are very few and far in between these days. That or just some of the verbiage or something they'll say. And I've caught myself doing it too. I did it during one of my interviews that afterwards I was like, did I really just say that he was a spoiled brat? And that was my hardest. I was like, oh no. So, called my wife afterwards, like, yeah, I said that. And she's like, wow, that's bad. I was like, oh, I
So,
know.
so core. And we've all thought that same thing, but it's
Yep.
like you once the words are out of your mouth, you can't eat them back.
Nope.
So, I mean, what do you think like brings like a unique vantage from the military to the civilian world on the recruiting side? Like what things on your military background and not looking at military folks, but looking at the civilian side where you go, yeah, most normal cats wouldn't see this. Is there anything like that you've seen?
I would say verbiage people use in actions and body language. So when I sit there and I'll do Teams call or just hesitation of voice, things like that, because again, with recruiting the Marine Corps, like you learn to pick up on those things because like, oh yeah, I'll call you back. And you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah, you're not.
And you can just tell those little things. And I'd say that's the one thing that like really translated well for me is to kind of have that feeling of, okay, they're going to ghost me. Or you know what, they're not the right fit.
Mhm.
They can speak the language. There's these little pauses or little things. It's like that's not the right culture fit for that company, or that's just like there's some BS there. So I'm not calling them back. I'm not submitting them.
Yeah, don't waste the time. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
when I was trained recruiters, one of the first things I did for all of them was I'd let them borrow one of my books on body language because it was to the point where like trained new recruiter guy'd leave the office was like, yeah, he's lying to you. What are you talking about? He seems like a sweet kid. It was like, don't go with Corey. You're gonna find something. Like, no way, he's such a nice guy. He's got a DUI. You think he just forgot about that? And the same thing
Mm-hmm.
goes on the civilian side. If you're paying attention, you'll see that stuff. It accounts for stuff in sales too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I love your product. And they're
Sure
just
you
kind
do.
of looking off in the other direction, like, okay, yeah, I won't bother you anymore. So, I mean,
Yep.
why'd you break into the real estate side of things too?
Again, that was sales. And with Marine Corps recruiting, that's sales. So it was an easy transition for me. Plus, my wife and I like to do real estate, and we got a couple houses. So it helped me at the same time. And I was actually going to do my skill bridge with one of my old executive officers that was a real estate agent. And that ended up falling through because command was fun to say the least, the CEO. So I ended up not being able to do that, but I'd started the entire process for real estate before all of that fell through when I was going to be able to do that as a skill bridge.
Yeah, and what's your favorite part of the real estate gig?
Trying to like when looking at houses with clients and like really like opening their eyes to things, whether it be that hey this isn't a great deal or hey this is a great deal because this and this like it doesn't have this. I was like you're not going to get everything you want with this market or where. So it's
Understood.
just those aha moments and being able to again help somebody because if I can help them get the house they want and within a price, like I've done like for a couple buddies, that's again same thing with recruiting. It's I'm able to help people and see the difference it makes, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, very similar for me too. I was like, walking to a house. I love this place. It's like, wait do you see the basement? And then we'll leave right after that. It was because I tell people when you're looking at a house, the most important thing, at least if it has basement, is the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Because that'll tell stories, so many.
Yeah.
So, um, For what you're doing now, tell us about what you're doing now with JC Porter. I mean, what kind of a company is that? What kind of culture is there? What do they need?
So it's all HR, accounting, and finance. So it's the only roles we recruit for. So anything from billing specialist all the way up to CFOs, CEO every now and then. But we stay within that realm because Jeff, who owns JC Porter, has his degree in finance and accounting. He worked in the big banks for a while and then got into recruiting. And then again, I did accounting and finance and HR for the Marine Corps. So that's the realm we stick in because we know it and we can kind of speak that language and understand when somebody's kind of feeding us a line.
Yeah.
And so it makes it easier to find the right candidate and work for the client and give them 3 to 5 solid applicants that they don't have to sit there and go through the resumes and really guess, is this the right fit? Because we've done that work for them.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of pointed out something there that I learned when I was working at Pratt is like I was the only person on the entire like recruiting team who knew how to speak jet. Because I was a crew chief, so
Yep.
the ability to be able to speak to these folks coming in the door and go like, you don't know what you're talking about, or yeah, she knows what's up.
Mm-hmm.
That helped the business a ton. Is so like some things I talk to people, I was like, oh, you want to go into IT, and you were an aviation guy. I was like, look at IT for aviation companies and stuff like that because being able to speak the language of the other side of the business so helpful. I mean,
Yes.
that's been your experience, obviously, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I see the same thing over and over with individuals, whether it be military or just civilians, that like one of them had an engineering background and it was for a company that did manufacturing engineering. And he was the best fit because he understood how to talk to the CEO of the company with engineering, but also do the financial translation for that engineering stuff. So it's again just, I mean, like you said, knowing the background for the company or that specific thing makes a world of difference. So to your point, if air crew and they're looking for Lockheed, Boeing, whatever else, they understand three-fourths of that language already. So why not go for a company that you have a leg up in understanding what it is?
Yeah, just knowing what's going on is going to make you more successful by default.
Yes.
Because you're not just sitting in the meeting going like, yeah, that's a lot of numbers. Cool. Anyway, especially doing what you do. I mean, I'm not a mathlete, so like the accounting and finance stuff, complete mystery to me. But with that background, I mean, that definitely helps. So, I mean, do you guys have any veteran resource groups, or is there any like targeted veteran work that you do, or is it strictly industry?
So we don't do necessarily specific veteran targeting. But if a veteran applies, we always reach out to them and I try to give them advice on their resume or whatever else it is. Or if I'm looking for a role and there's somebody that has military experience, I'll usually call them and try to like, ask them questions to see if they have it, even though it doesn't specifically say it on their LinkedIn or their resume, because a lot of times they will, they just don't have it in there. But funny enough, that's actually how Jeff started JC Porter, was placing a dev crew and a SEAL team member into companies. So that's how I actually started his company, was placing a SEAL team member into a company. And then going from there, he did the same thing a couple of times because a lot of his friends were either Green Beret, Navy SEALs, or things like that. So he was able to sit there and place them. And that's how he started JC Porter, was by placing them and then understanding that, and he had his own business doing that.
So, I mean, is there any degrees that weigh more heavily in hiring decisions with veterans, or do you look more at the experience typically?
That's all going to depend on the role. Some
Mhm.
companies aren't as stringent when it comes to the degree, but I would say 90% of them still want some kind of bachelor's degree. Um, some of them don't care if it's in accounting finance; they care that they have the experience. Some companies like, no, it has to be in accounting and finance. We don't care if they have the experience; it has to be in this. But I would say at least 90% of them want some kind of degree, a bachelor's degree, and half of them don't care of what it's in, as long as they have the experience in it.
Yeah, that's a toss up because that's one thing. Because like what you and I, did for years on recruiting, it kills me because we both looked on the market on the outside. You constantly see, oh, 5 years and a bachelor's degree of some sort, but it's like, well, what about if you have 20 years and you don't even get a call back? I
Yep.
mean, how frustrating is that to deal with on a day-to-day basis?
It's extremely frustrating, and I'll tell you, I mean, it's even more frustrating when we're dealing with like some of the lower level AR, so account receivable, account payable, billing specialist. Most of those individuals don't have degrees. They got into it because it was a job they could do. It didn't require a degree. It just required some experience and know how to work with Excel and things like that. And I'd say half the companies don't care if they have a degree, and then the other half do. And you're just like, you want to pay somebody $60,000 with a degree, and I was like, that's not. So it becomes difficult, like you said, frustrating that you see that 5 years experience in a degree, but what if I have 20 years experience that completely baffles everything they've done because I mean their degree they didn't even learn half of the hands-on stuff they're doing anyways.
Yeah, I mean, and good amount of degree time is like, exactly. It's something wouldn't be a
Yep.
seltzer. Um, that's the thing that's always killed me, because even C's get degrees, but if
Yeah.
you get C's in the military, you're probably not going to last that long or
No.
make it very far. So, I mean, have you ever found ways that you could convince a company to work around it?
Not really, because most of them are very strict. If they want a degree, it's company policy. They have to have a degree. I'd say there's been one time I can think of, but again, it was a low level billing specialist job, and they were willing to work because we found them somebody that had so much experience that they could not talk to them.
Mhm. The guy get
But
hired?
he did, or she did. But
Did
again,
it?
it was because it was such a lower level that they were willing to actually talk to them. But a lot of them, if they don't have a degree, they're stuck on it. It's almost like compensation. They're like, we want to pay this. Well, industry standard right now is this. Well, we can't afford that. It's like, okay, then you're not hiring somebody that with that experience. You might want to lower the expectations.
Oh yeah, so it's like, hey, you must have 10 years experience, a bachelor's degree, and it's like, well, the program's 5 years old, so you're not going to find that, and then we're going to pay him 48 grand a year. Yeah, some of the expectations are like, well, okay, start working on your H-1Bs, I guess, and then see what you get. Uh,
That, and then you'll have people that want, hey, no, I need 80,000 or $100,000 minimum. You're just like, what experience?
Ran into that, that's for sure. It was always a pleasant surprise when they say, "Yeah, I want 80 grand a year." Well, the job pays 120. You want an interview? Because I'd just be honest with them. It was like, yeah, I would like that
Yep.
interview. It's like, okay, let's make it happen because that person is probably gonna be easier to work with too, because they're already coming on tap dancing. And I had one guy try pushing it for more. I was like, I told you what it was.
Yeah. That,
It's like
that
20
frustrates
grand
me.
more than you asked for, and now you're asking for another 10.
Yep.
So you got to be kind of careful. So, between two very different industries that you've recruited in, have you, between Lockheed and obviously where you have Porter, have you seen any like types of roles where you're like, yeah, brand new person straight out of the military, it doesn't matter what they did, they're probably going to do well doing this type of work, you know?
Yeah. I'd say most of that was at Lockheed, just because, I mean, obviously it's very military friendly when it comes to that. It was some of the program specialists or program supervisors, just because they weren't really looking for a ton of experience or a degree. A lot of times it was one or the other. They were very flexible with having one or the other. It wasn't had to have both.
So like what type of programs were you talking about?
Um, so there was one that was over in tax. They just wanted 1 year experience. They didn't need to have a degree. They could honestly be doing the degree, and they were willing to take them as long as they had 1 year experience in tax
What's that?
and doing taxes. So it was
Okay.
taxes for the one of the divisions here in Colorado,
Mhm.
and there was another one that was security for the program manager, and then a program manager at the facility here in Colorado for one of the NASA divisions.
Oh yeah, and NASA, it's a nice name to attach yourself to on a resume too.
Yes.
I mean, well, speaking of attached names and resumes, is there anything like, you as a recruiter now, you see something on a resume and you're like, well, yeah, this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of service member I want, but maybe they don't have the exact, all those, that 50% plus on the
Mhm.
desired things. Is there anything that
Um,
you look for and go, come on, give this person a look?
I'd say it's more along the lines going to be either the school they went to or one of the divisions they worked with, whether it be that they worked with um, either Lockheed at one of the for one of the things, or if they worked with one of the big four, so E and Y. Like if they've done one of those things for service members, it's going to be usually the track they went in regards to they worked with this division doing these missions. If it's going to be for like a program manager or something else like that, because under pressure, they're going to be able to handle logistics and different things like that.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah. And the old part of the contract or as directed always gets taken advantage of. So,
Yes.
it's just crazy how many different jobs you have once, when you realize how many different tasks you did on the military side, once you take that hat off and start hearing what the civilian side of the industry, like I had no idea till I got out how much program management I did and project management I did. I had
Yes.
no idea. Do you see any things like that? Folks come out of the military are like, hey, you just you did a ton of this. You just don't know it. Is there any common ones you see?
That's probably the biggest one. It
Mhm.
is the program. What I see the most that doesn't really make a difference is leadership. Like, oh, I led this. Like, everybody can say they led, and 90% of civilians aren't going to understand what leadership in the military is, and that it's drastically different. That it's babysitting along with directing, along with doing all these different things. So the leadership to the civilian sector is like, okay, cool. It's managed, implemented, and like you said, program management, directing things, hands on with not only showing somebody how to do it, but like walking through the steps. I'd say that's probably the one that doesn't get taken advantage of the most. Most of them will try to do either program management or direction or leadership, and you're just like, that's everybody can say that. And leadership is so subjective, so it's
Yeah.
all about how you put it in there. Leadership working in this department with this many people, directing this, saving this much money due to this. So numbers and be able to say that you implemented something and it saved this much time or this much money, I'd say is probably what's underutilized the most. That probably makes the biggest difference on resumes for companies.
Yeah, I mean, my mind was blown when I realized, like, oh, I talked to all these guys are program managers, project managers. They're doing some amazing stuff. And it's like, dude, you handled an air show with 300,000 people. And somebody looked at me, it's like, well, yeah, I did. I didn't really think about that because that was an or as directed. Nobody
Yep.
said, it's a project or a program. Um,
Yes. So taking the time to sit down and go through all the things you actually did, because again, that's the hardest part of in the military. You don't sit there and brag. You don't sit there and say, "Oh, I did this. I did this." So sitting down and understanding all those things and writing them out to where you can utilize them in the story of how you didn't know how to do something, but you learned how to do it, and be able to implement those things into your resume, huge. And again, it's hard to remember all of those things because again, in the military, you don't. It's like you said, it's directed to do, so you don't think about it. You're just like, oh, I was told to do it, so I did it.
yeah, like in my case, we're deploying in '03 to go to the war, and all of a sudden I was the unit mobility manager, like as we're deploying, because some guy hurt his back.
Yep.
And looking back on it, I didn't think of it as like, crap, this is a ton of work I got to figure out and on the fly. But now, with a little bit more age and wisdom and experience, I look back and go, well, yeah, that's the kind of guy that, gal that, yeah, you probably want to look at because they learn this stuff on the fly under pressure, but it's hard to put that in words sometimes. Have you seen any like great ways that that was put?
I would say there was one I saw, and it was basically when we left Iraq for the last time. He was part of the entire movement of getting gear back, people back, and he was able to show how he saved days, not just hours, with loading equipment, getting it back, and saving money. So just the way he was able to put it into words and translate it, that he saved so many man hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars and a percentage of what was it? It was a percentage of man hours on top of the hours that were saved, and the way that he worded it in there was just phenomenal because it showed that he had the mindset of saving money, getting the job done, and improvements in how he actually implemented those improvements to save the company time and money.
You just gave me an idea of something that I did when I was in the desert because the locals burned down and one of our flatbeds they were going to use to redeploy stuff. And I bartered a trade with the army and I got two drivers and a flatbed for days because other than that, we were driving forklifts 2 miles each direction for each thing. Now I'm like, oh, maybe I'll put that in there because you just made a great point of just that one single thing. Hey, creatively found a way through the problem, save money by doing it. Cross-functional teams, some of those buzzwords come in. Richard, go ahead, sir.
Oh, I have a question of how do recruiters look at people that are overqualified? Because, for example, the job says they want a bachelor's, the applicant has a master's. The job says they want 5 years experience, the applicant has 15 or 20 years experience. You know, I've heard that that's actually a negative because the view of the company is this guy is just going to take this job temporarily and he'll continue applying for positions for more money someplace else. And the second he gets a job, he's going to ditch us. And then we just wasted a whole bunch of time on it, training the guy. What's your view of people? Because a lot of these senior guys coming out of the military are literally overqualified for
Mhm.
the jobs they apply for.
Richard, I say you're right. It's a way a lot of companies view it, and it sucks, but I also get it because most of the time you see that in the civilian sector, where they'll take a role because they don't have a job, and all of a sudden they're applying for all these roles on the side. So I would say the biggest thing that I look at as a recruiter is, are they taking a step back? Meaning, so for like us, they've been a chief financial officer and now they're wanting to be a controller, which is two steps back. So that's what I look at more than anything else is, are they moving backwards in their career just to get something? Or is it at least parallel or maybe one step back because the company they were at wasn't as big? So they're applying to this one because it's a smaller company, gives a different perspective, or maybe something they're qualified in but don't have as much qualification so they can take that step back up. So it's all based on what they've done and how it's worded in their resume and what the perspective is. But 9 times out of 10, I'll call them anyways if they apply for something, even if they're overqualified, because you never know. And it might be like, hey, I'm on my twilight. I literally just, I love doing this. I want to be able to do it for the next 5 years and then retire. And there's some companies that are willing to take those individuals. So I call them because I want to have that resume for when I get that role to stare and put them in front of it. But you are correct that a lot of companies will sit there and be like, "Hey, overqualified. I'm not going to call them."
Thank you.
So when you finally get that resume in front of the hiring manager, say you got two people, one's got the exact degree the manager wants, but the other one has a bunch of certifications. Which one do you usually see get selected first if you put the other stuff aside?
I mean, realistically, it'll be the degree just because that's what they're trained to stare and look at. But we do a little differently in the sense of like when we talk to people, candidates, we actually take notes. And I don't just submit a resume. I submit a resume with bullets of what this person has and how they fit your need. So that's why we do a little better with placing, and we only submit anywhere from 1 to 5 people max. Because one, we don't want to flood the hiring manager, but we want to find the right fit culturally and for the role. And again, a lot of times the resumes don't say exactly what it is. So that's why we talk to them, like ask them the questions and then put those bullets in an email to the hiring manager. They have this, 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 and this.
Yeah, I did like where I was at, I had like a 3-page form with like tons of those questions. And then for like the basic quals and the preferred quals, I'd write in their answers and then I'd
Mhm.
add stuff like, he didn't have this in the resume, and I'd hand that in with the resume every
Yep.
single time. But some places they're not that formalized or they're not that
Yeah.
ahead. It's like that first call, like, what was the point of this?
Yeah. And again, I think that's where the resume is so important when it comes to tailoring your resume to each specific role. When you get that basic job description and the desired skills, make sure those keywords are in there. Because, I mean, I'd say probably at least 50% of companies are using AI. And if it doesn't have those keywords, it's not even pulling it up.
So,
So, yeah, go ahead.
but no, go keep going.
I was saying, so make sure that you tailor every single resume. Is it tedious? Is it annoying? Absolutely. I mean, I still have a folder on my desktop of over 300 different resumes. Um, but again, it's just if you want a callback, if you want them to understand what you've done, you have to put it in terms that they're going to sit there and give you a call. And if you only have 70% of the stuff, they have things when you submit your resume. If they call you, I know I don't have this, but I do have this in this aspect. Or I know it doesn't say that exactly, but I've done this, this, and this.
Yeah, and for it's funny with basic and preferred qualifications. I can't remember what the numbers were, but men and women look at it very differently because we were given the numbers on that. We're like guys are like, yeah, if I'm 70% of the, or if I'm like 30% of the way there, they're going to apply. Where women are like somewhere like 70%. So like one of the things I encourage is like have the confidence. The worst that's going to happen is they say no.
Yeah.
The odds are you'll probably just never even get a message,
Yep.
but it ain't gonna hurt. Leslie, go ahead.
Hey Nick, thank you so much for doing this for us. My question is, I've been tailoring my resume to the jobs that I'm applying for, but my biggest fear is, so my LinkedIn profile actually says something different to the jobs that I'm applying to. Like it's specific within the cybersecurity frame background and everything, but it's just like sometimes when I'm tailoring my resume to these jobs, I feel like do I have to keep going back to my LinkedIn to adjust it, or I just leave it the way it is? Like how does my question to you as a recruiter is how do you oftentimes go back to someone's LinkedIn profile and say, hey, they said this on their resume, they have something completely different on their LinkedIn. Like how does that affect the recruiting process?
Every time I go to their LinkedIn, every time I look at a resume, because again, I'm going to look and see if there's differences, but also in a good way. And what I mean by that is, hey, the resume has what I'm looking for, but how much they know about it, or what about this that's not on the resume. So I'll go look to their LinkedIn, like, okay, they do have it, or they don't, but you know what, they probably just haven't updated. So again, I'll reach out because I'm like, hey, your resume says this, LinkedIn says this. I need you to update your LinkedIn. But again, not everybody does that. So I would say have a broad scope on your LinkedIn because I'd say probably 70% of the candidates I find, they don't apply to the role. I literally go find them. So make sure your LinkedIn has keywords for the roles you're looking for, whether it be cybersecurity, SOX experience, whatever it is, make sure it has those keywords and that you've done them. So your LinkedIn needs to be a complete story of everything you've done. And it sucks taking the time to like really put those things in there, but it needs to be a broad spectrum of everything you've done and some of those keywords in there. That way you don't have to keep going back and doing it. But I would recommend as you remember those things and you're putting in your resume, update your LinkedIn so it's there. And make sure you have a good picture. I mean, there's so many AI ones out there now, AI things out there now. Use one of those to have a good LinkedIn picture. Because if you have the one like, I mean, half the time I look at those, I'm just like, I'm not calling that guy.
Can't take it seriously.
Exactly. So LinkedIn is probably the next most important thing to the resume because I go there, I find 70% of the people without even applying, I'll reach out to them, but also I'll look on there and be like, this doesn't add up, or they don't really have it, or they do have it. I'm going to call them because they don't have it on the resume, but their LinkedIn has it.
Well, the other thing too on the LinkedIn side, it's not like a resume where you're trying to keep it under 2 pages. LinkedIn, you got all the room. Let them dig in and give them an encyclopedia if you need to.
Yes.
Hey, Will, you got a question, sir? Go ahead.
Hey, Nick, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Jumping back right before Leslie asked this question, you were talking about tailoring your resume, making sure it has key indicator, those words. In terms of, I mean, I've heard many different things, and I'm probably going to continue to hear many different things. But in terms of The cover letter, because your resume captures a lot of things. And I know that we've all done things that we're not going to buy, line item after line item, capture every single detail. In relation to the resume and tailoring the resume with those particular keywords, how important is that cover letter?
If you send me a cover letter, I delete it. I don't even look at it. And maybe half the time I'll look at it because it's a waste of your time. The only time you will ever want to do a cover letter is if they specifically say on there a cover letter is required. Some companies still do it. Some companies still require a cover letter. None of the ones I recruit for do because I'm submitting the resume. But I know Lockheed, they give you the option to sit there and do a cover letter. And sometimes it works because if you know the hiring manager or somebody within that area, putting that in there. But I would say 70 to 90% of the recruiters I know and that I do, I don't want to see a cover letter. I don't want you wasting your time doing it. And I'm not going to waste my time reading it because it's not the resume. Because the resume, 9 out of 10 times, is the only thing that's staying in a CRM, which is so the database for the company. We're not going to keep a cover letter. We go back to the resume. So only time I would ever do a cover letter is if they specifically say, we want a cover letter. You have to upload a cover letter.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question after that. If a company does say, or if an agency is saying, hey, submit your cover letter, what would you put in a cover letter that would be so impactful that it would help you stand away from your resume?
We'll work for free.
Again, ChatGPT. Put it in there, put the job description in there, put your resume in there. Give me a cover letter for this role, and then obviously tweak it to make sure that it's accurate based off of your stuff. But I would start there instead of sitting there recreating the wheel of doing the entire cover letter, and basically just put the things in there of, hey, I appreciate your time. I've done this. Here's my experience, and I know I don't have this, but I've got this.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Kamar, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Nick. So my question is because I've heard questions about being overqualified and having separate whether it's a degree or certs. For people like myself, I've been in supply, but I have a master's in HR and I'm trying to pivot. So I know they said that transfer your experience to HR related roles, but what are the odds of people like myself getting those roles when we lack the experience? I mean, I have the degree, but I lack the experience. And as much as you interpret, what you have, it's not exactly what you're looking for. Because when I'm looking at jobs, most of them are asking for 5 years, 7 years, 3 years.
So you'd have more experience than you realize. Kind of like what Ernest was saying is you have to take, because you have HR experience. You had military members underneath you, correct? You were
Yes.
sitting there telling them, hey, go get your pay corrected. Go get what do you think HR does? HR does all of those things. It's all about how you translate it into things that make sense. Now, the part that you're talking about of not having that exact experience, we want you to have 5 years experience in corporate HR or whatever. That's more difficult. So you're probably not going to get those roles. You're probably going to have to start off somewhere that's willing to take that chance or has a little bit lower qualifications on it. Start there, get some of that experience, and then be able to bridge that gap of, I have 5 years of total experience now. 2 years though it's only in corporate, but I have 3 other years of experience, whatever it is. But now you have that corporate company on your resume to show that you have experience outside the military. But don't downplay that you don't have the experience. Believe it or not, you do. It's just one, remembering it, like what we were talking about. So when you remember something, write it down, put it on a note, put it in somewhere that you have it. But then again, ChatGPT, Perplexity, all those different AIs, translate this into civilian terms. Or, hey, here's the job description, here's my resume, or here's the things that I've accomplished. I need you to put I've done this, this, and this. Make it in terms that make sense for this.
So one of the things that I mean, I do apply, but in the back of my head, I'm I'm not getting called because they want you to be familiar with the HRIS systems and all those don't have that. So I'm I'm definitely gonna get overlooked because these are things they want you to know beforehand.
Are they asking for specific HRIS systems or just HRIS systems?
No, so usually they'll have specifics, like they want you to be able to use this or have experience using this software or this
Okay.
system. So
Okay.
yeah,
So what I would do in that case is you have experience with HRIS systems. I mean, every one of us, like for Marine Corps, it's MOL. I mean, we've got all kinds of different MyPay. Those are all types of HRIS systems.
No PDS.
So yeah, 3270, like all those different things. So make sure that you have in your resume that you have HRI experience, 5, 10, 15 years of HRI experience, and how many different ones you've used. And that way, one of the bullets can be learned and implemented the integration of a new HRIS system. Because I'm sure that you were in the service during a new implementation or an update or one of those things. So it shows that you have the learning capability and implementation capability of a new HRIS system.
okay. Thank
I
you.
know it's not perfect, but it's where to start off on, and it just takes one person. And again, it's about who you know as far as at a company. Find a veteran you served with, or somebody that knows somebody. That's why LinkedIn's great, or Facebook. Like, hey, so and so works there, and this person knows them. Hey, do you still have contact with? I mean, I just had one of my good buddies that's getting ready to retire. Hey, do you know Christian? I was like, yeah, we served together for 5 years. He's like, hey, you got his number? Would you vouch for me? Like, absolutely. Called him. He's like, yeah, send me his number. Send me his numbers. Now he's got a SkillBridge at Cisco because he's working there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the crazy thing about the human resources is like if you've been around over 6 years, you've been doing it because you're writing evaluation reports. You might have to discipline somebody. You might have to have some hard talks, and those are all HR type things. But we think, oh, that's the personnel folks or whatever. And it's like, no, it doesn't get to them until it's gone through you. They're just the next higher level of HR. Yeah, I
Exactly.
didn't really think about it until you just mentioned it, but it's like as my head's rattling, people are putting up all these different systems that we've used. I mean, if you can get through DTS, you can figure out finance systems,
Yes, absolutely.
because that is the devil. Um,
Yes.
so, I mean, what do you see as the biggest mindset shift that veterans have to make going to the civilian sector? It's a question I ask regularly because I often get some different responses.
I'd say that's twofold. One, changing your mindset that people aren't going to be knocking down the door. It's about you going out and building those relationships, putting yourself out there. Um, and then two, not selling yourself short, meaning figure out a way to translate what you've done to that resume for that specific role. Because believe it or not, like we just talked about, I would be willing to bet almost every single person in this room has done HR. They don't think they have, but they've done some kind of HR. So I'd say those are the two biggest things that it's difficult is mindset of not selling yourself short, but also not being overconfident and realizing you are stepping into a whole new world. So it's taking the time to understand that, network, and sell yourself in a way that's going to make sense for that person you're talking to.
John, go ahead.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for coming to talk to us today. I've got some, I don't know, I guess maybe pointed questions, right? But I'll start with this. Because you do a whole lot of recruiting in the financial industry. So, what is your perspective, or what have you seen when it comes to experience with like cryptocurrency? Because some banks are really into it, some are not. Like, do you see that like actually becoming like a bigger player in the industry? That's kind of question number one. And then question number two is, what's the general vibe of the market now? Because it always changes, right? But I mean,
Yes.
you have a like a window of view to like everything. So I'd love to kind of hear your perspective of like what are you seeing on the ground floor?
Yeah. Okay. So for the first cryptocurrency, I'd say that's company dependent. Um, I don't think that's as much of a big shift as what you saw in IT 15 years ago, where all of a sudden everybody's getting an IT degree, everybody's getting hired with IT. So I don't think it's as big of a shift as that was, or what the real estate was 7 years ago, where everybody was a realtor because everybody's making fist over fist of money. And in regards to the market, it ebbs and flows so drastically, depending on time of year, obviously, which makes sense because a lot of people aren't moving in the holidays. But I'd also say that it's been rough the last, I'd say this year in general, just because there's so much unknown, so many companies not hiring because they're waiting to see what happens, whether it be political or just in the actual market. Um, but I'd also say that AI, believe it or not, is like a lot of companies are downsizing because of that. They're utilizing return to office as the downsize, but in reality, it's because they can, because now they don't need all these individuals that some of the roles AI can do. So I'd say I see it as being down right now. It's slowly picked up this last month and a half, but I'd say a lot of it's just because the unknown of what's going on in the civilian sector, as far as, is this company going to be around? Are we going to get this funding? Are we going to get this grant? Different things like that.
So, like, what's one thing that we can bring to the table that, tells a company or tells a recruiter, like, hey, I'm better than AI. Like, here's my value proposition.
I mean, if they have the job posted, I think they're already past that. So I don't think that's something that you have to sit there and really like speak to, just because if they've got the job posted, they're willing to hire somebody. But if in regards to like, hey, I'm better than the other individuals, I would again put those things in your resume of like statistics, how you've changed things, improved things, saved the military money. I mean, those are the things that most recruiters and most companies look at: is how are they going to help this company? Are they going to save us money, time? Are they intuitive? Am I going to spend more money training them than I'm going to receive from them?
Oh, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yep.
Cool. Javier, go ahead, sir.
Hi, Nick. Thanks again for joining us. Earlier, you mentioned that a lot of the matches that you make are based upon profiles that you find on LinkedIn. Could you walk us through what that process looks like from your end, how you start the search, match it, and the items that stick out, or how you navigate LinkedIn to find these profiles?
Yeah. So a lot of it's going to be based on the job. So what the company's looking for. And then from there, I'll go in there and do a search. Whether it has to be in office, then I'll look in a certain location. If they're willing to do relocation, then I'll look nationwide. But it goes off of key things they're looking for. So if they're looking for somebody that has a specific system or a degree, I make sure to put bachelor's degree in there. So make sure that everything's listed as far as your degrees, your certificates. If you have a CPA or a CISA degree, make sure that's in there. Make sure that it's clearly labeled under certificates. Some of them are looking for specific experience. They want somebody that's been an accounting manager for 5 years. So I'll go in there and put experience. I'll put accounting manager, past or present. So it's all role specific, but again, it's going to be keywords. Do they have cash application? Do they have leadership? Do they have implementation? So it's going to be based off of really what the job description is.
Okay, great, thanks. So on your LinkedIn profile, you're able to like queue these different criteria, and then it provides you a list of the candidates based upon the keywords that you input.
Yes. Yep.
So for us as job searchers, I assume that the software works where like LinkedIn scans the entire profile of a job candidate and then it matches it to that criteria you worked. And I guess where I'm going at is how can we then make sure we put the keywords in the right place under the LinkedIn profile? Where do you think it draws
Yeah.
upon that, if you have any knowledge on that? Thanks.
I'd say most of the time it looks over the entire thing, but again, LinkedIn's not perfect. It's hit or miss sometimes. So I don't. Does anybody there have LinkedIn Recruiter Access, Ernest?
No, not our side. I've
Okay.
used it, and it's a bit wonky to use.
It is. What I'll do is I'll take a screenshot of what the fields are, and I'll provide that to you. I'll email it to you. That way you have that for maybe that specific question. But it's hit or miss to answer your question. Usually it will search the entire resume or the entire thing, but you can also upload your resume. and only recruiters can have access to it. Just like open to work. If you're open to work and looking, make sure that's on there, because I call open to works before I'll call somebody that's not open to work. Now, do I call people that aren't open to work? Absolutely, because that's where we probably get 50% of placements. But just making sure that it's updated. Keywords are in there. Like the previous question that was asked, as far as like always updating your LinkedIn, always update it. If you get new experience, or if you have experience with a new program, put that on there, because that could be the difference of a recruiter calling you because you have that hard to find system, or not.
Thanks again.
Good stuff. Kenneth, go ahead.
You doing today?
Sorry, you broke up there.
I'm sorry. How you doing today?
Good, and you?
I'm good. I'm good. You said something that really sparked me a little bit for a question, was the open to work. Are you talking about the open to work banner, or just the one for the recruiters, or both?
Just the one for the recruiters.
Okay.
Because on Recruiter Access, we have a spot when we're searching for people, and it'll have it divided: open to work, job match, today's 25 recommendations, things like that. So make sure that if you're open to work, that you put it. And once you're not open to work, please change that back, because you'd be surprised. Why are you calling me? Well, it says open to work on your LinkedIn. I'm not open to work. Can you change it?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. No, just didn't know if we needed to have the banner up there. I've been just trying to keep away from a lot of the spam and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I was just trying to make sure.
I wouldn't worry about the banner so much, because again, that can be, so if you have an employer and you're looking to move, I mean, they can see that on your actual profile. But if you just have the open to work, that's only recruiters that can sit there and see that.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Cool. So this is my last one for you, Nick. So if you give yourself, day one civilian Nick, some advice, what would it be?
That's hard to really, I'd say don't stress about it, but I mean, that's just not a reality.
Yeah,
I would say when you look back, it's easier to try and enjoy the process. But in all actuality, it's hard work. Just understand that getting out, that it's not easy. Sometimes you find the right thing at the right moment. Like I got extremely lucky. I was at the end of my skill bridge, and I got the interview because my executive officer introduced me to Jeff. And it was just like, again, I mean, some people believe in divine fate, some people don't. It's just things happen, things don't. Don't beat yourself up about it so much. It is the advice I would give. As long as you're putting your best foot forward, you're putting the resumes together, you're doing everything you can, don't beat yourself up on an already stressful situation, because all it's going to do is make it worse. And when you go in for the interview, you're going to be stressing about it more. You're going to seem desperate. So try your best to not stress about an already stressful and difficult situation.
That's good stuff. So before I let you go, as we run up against the clock, do you have any parting words, some wisdom you'd like to drop that we didn't cover?
No, I mean, reiterate, just LinkedIn and your resume are two of the biggest things you need to focus on if you're looking for a role, because that's how recruiters are going to find you. And most jobs, I mean, they don't sit there and they'll post it up on their website, but I'd say after a month or so, if they aren't finding the right person, they're going to have HR search look out and everything. So always make sure your LinkedIn's updated with keywords. Make sure you're always telling your resume, and probably network. Networking is the biggest thing that you can do. Just make sure that you're always looking to build those relationships. And I get it seems corny and cheesy, but sometimes just building those relationships, even as fake and phony as it might seem, might be the difference in you getting a call from somebody a year or 2 years down the road. So always put your best foot forward. I mean, I still get calls from the people at Lockheed, like, hey, we have a role. It's like, I'm good where I'm at. I'm happy. But I still get calls because I did a good job while I was there at SkillBridge. So take the advantage of SkillBridge, network, find out those different things. Because I mean, more times than not, the people that get good roles, like built those relationships during SkillBridge and showed those civilians what military actually bring. It's not just hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. and like dumb grunts and everything else. Like we bring value to the company that they didn't realize. And one question I'll tell you, like, that is probably the biggest thing I took from Marine Corps recruiting is always asking if there's any questions or concerns. I always ask that after talking to every single kid, because then you get the doubt, the misconceptions, anything is out before they leave. So there's no fear or unknown when